What's up, y'all? It is February 14th, 2024. When Matt Barnes, Neek, was asked about his constant altercations, do you know what he responded with?
What?
He said, "Violence is never the answer, but sometimes it is." What's up, y'all? I'm Tony Styles. This is unique. We are the HoopStorians. We are back on Valentine's Day. We would much rather be with y'all than our women, and they are pissed about it. So let's get into this day in NBA history. Did you know on February 14th, 2019, Russell Westbrook dropped 44, grabbed 14 rebounds, and also dished out 11 assists in a 122-131 loss to the Pelicans? It was his 11th straight triple double, which was a record. If rings did not matter, how high up would Westbrook be on the all-time great list, in your opinion?
That's a very hard question to answer because if rings didn't matter, I don't think Westbrook would have had to move around and get shifted from team to team like he has. Like I don't think he would have got traded as many times as he did. So we probably would have seen more stats from him. We probably would have seen more accolades to come. We probably would have seen him more comfortable and more consistently because it's not that he's not consistent. It's I don't feel as though he gets consistent playing or consistent time, so we don't get to see what his true potential is. So I feel as though if
You
rings
mean
did
in his
not
current role, right?
in
Because
his
I think
current
we've seen
role,
his
in his current
potential.
role,
Yeah. Okay.
in his current role, yes. So I'm saying the talent that he is, if rings didn't matter, we would have been able to see him showcase that talent a lot more. But because of his current role, because rings do matter, he gets benched, he has to sit around where it's like he could be utilized. But for teams that don't feel like he plays within their system of winning, their system to get the chip, um, that's part of the issue. So rings aside, talent wise, I think
Not
Westbrook
accomplishments, numbers, as
yeah,
well.
talent wise, yeah, that too. Accomplishments, numbers. I think Westbrook will be he's definitely a top 50, but I think he's like a top 30 if we minus the rings.
I mean, I think he has an argument go anywhere from 10 to 15 if we're minus in the rings. We got MVPs, we got the triple double records. Not only like you said, he probably would keep going with numbers and not try to, ring chase to get his rings. We'd probably even see better numbers and things like that.
Yeah, I can see that.
Maybe another MVP. I don't think so. I don't think he really deserved the first one because they only won 47 games that year. But as far as the talent goes, yeah, I could see him with his numbers, his triple doubles, things like that. Because he does everything except get you blocks. He shoots a poor 3-point percentage too, but he still hits threes because he shoots so many. So yeah, I could see him in a 10 to 15. And for
And
those that know, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, and also part of the reason why I have him so low, like have him in the 30s, is because even though you're saying the rings don't necessarily matter,
In
I
this
don't
scenario,
in this scenario, right? But I also don't want to take away some of the greats that also have rings because, like, some of them, regardless, they're just going to be there. So, with that in mind, like, yeah, he's in the top 30, and it doesn't even necessarily mean he's close to 30, but it for me, he would be in the top 30 if rings weren't counted.
well, and that was this day in NBA history. So let's get into the greatest teams in the Southwest Division. Obviously, some teams have more teams that are in the argument and all that. So we're going to kind of
Mhm.
try to build up. I think originally we were going to do this with three people, and we're going to kind of vote, and we're going to be the tying vote. So I think we'll just switch off. If we disagree on the first team, it'll go to me. Disagree on the next team goes to you. Your vote matters over mine, and that's just how we'll break it down, just to keep things flowing smoothly.
Okay.
So let's start off with the Pelicans. So to me, as far as the Pelicans go, there's only two teams that are in consideration for the greatest team of all time with them. That would be the '08 Hornets before they were the Pelicans. They went 56 and 26. They beat a Mavs team in 5. They lost to the Spurs in 7 after being up 3-2. They were 5th in offensive rating, 7th in defensive rating. They had a net rating of 5th. Notable players were Chris Paul, David West, Tyson Chandler, Peja Stojakovic, Morris Peterson. Now, the next team that they'll go up with, and this is what's going to decide it, just these two. There were the 18 Pelicans. They were at 48 and 34. If you remember, they swept Damian Lillard and the Blazers. They lost in 5 to Golden State that year. They were 10th in offensive rating, 4th in defensive rating, 13th in the net rating. They had Drew Holiday, Etwan Moore, Miritic, Rajon Rondo, Anthony Davis, DeMarcus Cousins. And if you remember correctly, DeMarcus Cousins was injured for the playoffs. So we're going to play them healthy. If these two teams were playing each other in a 7-game series, both healthy, who would you pick? Because I think this is a really good matchup.
It sounds way better than I expected it to be quite honest, because I don't even remember. You said that was 2017,
2017,
the
2018.
I don't even remember that Pelican team like that, mainly because I was watching like different teams at that point in time. But immediately I wanted to say Chris Paul and them. I wanted to say the '08 team.
Hmm.
Um, Hearing how well the Pelicans did, minus a boogie, um, and then even the going 1-4 against Golden State. That is still Golden State. They swept Dame and them, so it's like, wow. I'm still going with Chris Paul and the boys though. I'm still going with them. But that Pelicans, that second team, I didn't. You just put me on. I didn't know they were that good at that time.
Yeah, I mean, I think with the defensive backcourt of a Drew Holiday and a Rajon Rondo, Miritic with his shooting, Davis and
Hmm.
Cousins. I mean, I definitely like Davis and Cousins at the 4 and the 5 over David West and Tyson
Yeah,
Chandler. So I think if
yeah.
healthy, I think the 18 Pelicans win. And so this will be our first tiebreaker. It goes to me. We'll go ahead and go with the 18 Pelicans. I don't really think you have a bad answer with these two. I think it's a toss up series. I think it goes 7. Everything that one team has a strength of, another team has a counter for. And that's the best
Hmm.
thing about this. We really don't know, but I don't really think there's a bad answer with this one. Do you?
No, I mean, no. Like I said, I wanted to say, Chris Paul and David West, and then when you're speaking and you're talking about like basically reminding me, and I guess whoever's watching, like reminding us of, no, don't sleep, because like you said, they had Davis, and I
Cousins.
forgot, I forgot about that combo. Like, you feel me? That was one of them punches that I totally forgot existed. So
Right.
yeah,
With
how
Drew
you
Holiday
said
and
Davis,
Rajon Rondo.
Drew Holiday's a champ.
Rondo.
Rondo's a champ.
Right.
AD's a champ. So yeah, that's a good little lineup. It's a good squad.
So there you have it. We're going to go with the 18 Pelicans as the greatest Pelicans in. Just to let you know, the Pelicans, they have 21 seasons in New Orleans, and they only have 2 series wins so far, and that in each one of those series wins came from one of each of these teams. So these are the only 2 series wins that they have, and the 18 Pelicans are the only one with a sweep in franchise history. So
Um,
let's move on to the next one. These guys don't have a lot of history either. We got Memphis. They've been around for 29 years. They have one trip to the conference finals. We'll get into this. We'll just break this down. I got the 11 Grizzlies. We'll start off there. They went 46 and 36. They upset the number 1 seed Spurs. They beat them in 6. Then they lost to a Harden, Westbrook, Durant team in 7 in OKC. They were 16th in offense, 9th in defense, and 10th in net rating. Some of their notable players were Rudy Gay, Zach Randolph, Marc Gasol, OJ Mayo, Mike Conley, Tony Allen, Shane Battier. And the next one, we're going to go ahead and we're going to go with the 22 Grizzlies. And they went 56 and 26. They beat Minnesota in 6. They lost to Golden State in 6. They were 5th in offensive rating, 4th in defensive rating, 4th in net rating. Some of their main guys were Morant, Bain, Brooks, Adams, and Jackson. Who do you got? The 11 Grizzlies or the 22 Grizzlies if they were in a matchup?
I'm going with the 11 Grizzlies. I'm going with the Grindhouse boys. Now, in my opinion, I feel as though both of the Grizzly teams have some pieces, like you feel me, like take John out. You feel me? Bane
Hmm.
still shows up, and then you got like Marcus Smart doing a lot of dirty work. You got Steven Adams, that's this unmovable force and everything like that. But when I think about Rudy Gay offensively, like you feel me, I'm taking Rudy Gay over Bane at that point in time, at least. But who else we got? We got who Conley was Conley on that
Yeah,
11
Conley,
team.
Conley
We
versus
got
Morant.
Conley. Yeah, see, you feel me now? Morant, he gonna put that work on Conley, but at the same time, don't sleep. Conley got defense, and Conley gonna give him buckets too. He's not gonna give as many, but at the same time, he can get off. You feel me? He can. The thing with Ja is he's such a freak athlete that you never know what he's going to do.
Hey, real
You can
quick
never.
sidebar. In their prime, who do you think's a better athlete? Ja Morant, you there?
Yeah, it cut out. Say it again.
Who do you think's a better athlete, Ja Morant or Derrick Rose in their prime?
Oh, um, Rose. But it's not easy. It's not easy. And I'm not gonna even lie, there might be some slight bias in that, but I feel as though Rose has slightly better handles. And then if we're just talking about high
I'm
flying
just
and
talking
soaring,
athletic. I'm just talking about fastness, cutting, lateral movement, jumping ability. Just athlete, not handles, not skills. Just athlete.
I feel as though because it's basketball, though, the handles have to be included. I'm not even more so saying as far as skill, but I'm saying to have that kind of speed and be able to still control the ball. That's what I'm taking into consideration. But as far as just athletic abilities, it's a toss up, but I'm going Rose. I'm going Rose.
Rose seems to be faster laterally and jumping sideways in the air. Morant seems to explode faster to the rim. So I don't really have the answer either. That's why I was that's why I was kind of wondering because I was thinking
It's
about that the
tough.
other day.
Yeah, it's not an easy one.
Right. So anyway, so yeah, let's get back to the 11 Grizzlies versus the 22 Grizzlies. So you got
So
them going with that.
yeah, I'm going with. I feel as though the 11 Grizzlies had slightly not even necessarily slight, but I feel as though the 11 Grizzlies had a little, had some more pieces, had more
No,
help.
I think they were deeper. I would go with the 22 Grizzlies because I think they're better at the top. I think John Morant's the best player in that series. I think one of the
Yes.
factors is too, as far as the grindhouse goes, they played bully ball, and I think Steven Adams likes bully ball. I
Yeah.
think he likes the rough and tough contact, and they've never seen nothing like that. We've gotten all kinds of reports that he's the strongest player. Have you heard Jimmy Butler when he said how strong he was? I think he said. I think he sets the best screens in the NBA, and that's not a way to quantify him, but I think that's an awesome ability to have. I think threes are worth more than two. I also like how Jaren Jackson would be bringing them out to allow Ja for the drives. I don't like the Bain and Brooks combo at the wings. That's where I think the grindhouse with Conley. I'm sorry, with Gay and Mayo.
Mhm.
That's where I think they would have the advantage. But yeah, I would go with the 22. But like I said, this is your tiebreaker, so we're to go 11. They're moving on. And then the next ones are we have the 13 Grizzlies. They went 56 and 26. They beat the Clippers in six. They beat the Thunder in five, and then they got swept by the San Antonio Spurs. They were 17th in offensive rating, second in defensive rating, seventh in net rating. Uh, Gay, Gasol, Randolph, Conley, Prince, Allen were their core pieces. And we're going to go against the 15 Grizzlies. They went 55 and 27. They beat Portland in five. They lost to the first Warriors title team with Steph. They lost in six. They actually held a 2-1 lead in that series. They were 13th in offense, three in defense, and eight overall in net rating. And they had Gasol, Randolph, Conley, Courtney Lee, Green, Allen, and Prince as their core. Who would you go with?
Sounds like the same team.
It does. One of the things would be the green piece, for example. That would be they seemed a little deeper in Memphis. So I would go with 15 just because the simple fact that they did have a 2-1 lead on Golden State that year. And that's when Golden State was first looking unstoppable. They had the lineup of death. Nobody had the answer for that. And that is
hmm,
why I would go with the
15.
15 Grizzlies over the 13 Grizzlies, even though the 13 Grizzlies is by far their most successful playoff team, getting all the way to the conference finals.
Yeah, I'm with you on that though. I was leaning towards the 15 Grizzlies as well. So looks like
So
we
there we go.
agreed on
So
that one.
now we have the 15 Grizzlies against the 11 Grizzlies. Like I said, we each got we got Randolph on each one. We got Mark Gasol on each one. We got Conley on each one. We have Tony Allen on each one. The difference is we have Rudy Gay on the 11 one. We have Battier on the 11 one versus the 15 Grizzlies. We have guys like Courtney Lee on that one, Green, and that would be the difference. So who you got there?
I'm going 15. Um,
You don't like the Jeff Green piece, or you like the Jeff Green piece? I'm sorry.
I do like the Jeff Green piece. That boy's a dog on the defense. And with these teams being very similar, for me, part of the edge, because I don't see much of an offensive edge between the two. So it comes down to who I like more defensively. So yeah, I'm going with the 15 Grizzlies on that one.
I'm gonna go ahead and go with the 15 Grizzlies as well. What I like is I just think the ratings were better. You know, they were 13th versus 16th. They were in offense. They were third in D versus ninth in D, and they were overall eighth versus 10th. Not only that, they took the champs to six, and that's the best anyone challenged those guys this year. The only other team to get them to six was Cavs team. They had a guy by name LeBron. So that's was what it took for them to get two games off them. I also think they lost to the champs, so there could be an argument. They could feel like at least, well, we're the second best
Right.
team.
They stood in the
Uh,
right, yeah.
right, right. As opposed to the Grizzlies, the 11 Grizzlies, they lost to Oklahoma City, who then lost to the Mavs. So, they're like a tier or two away. So that's where I got on that. Let's move on to the Mavs. We got a little more teams with the Mavs. Um, they have one title in 44 seasons. The first team we're going to go with the 88 Mavs. They went 53 and 29. They beat Houston in 4, 3-1. They beat Denver in 6. Then they lost to the Showtime Lakers in 7. They were third in offense, 15th in defense, fourth overall in net rating. They had guys like Derek Harper, Rolando Blackman, Mark Aguirre, Sam Perkins, James Donaldson, Roy Tarpley, Brad Davis, Detlef Shrimp. That's our
Hey,
first one. Huh?
no, just saying that.
There we go. And then they're going to go against the 22 Mavs. They went 52 and 30. They beat Utah in 6. They beat Phoenix in 7 in that game where Chris Paul hit that late three to cut the lead to 41. I don't know if you remember that big play.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then Golden State, they lost to them in 5. They were 15th in offense, 6th in defense, 7 overall. They had guys like Bullock, Finney Smith, Luca, Jalen Brunson, Dinwiddie, and Max Keebler. Who you got? The 88 Mavs or the 22 Mavs?
So since I'm really not too familiar with the 88 Mavs, it's a little difficult because the way I'm seeing it is we got two teams who lost to some champs. Like they took the Lakers to 7, and then
Lost to Golden State in
this is
5.
you felt you said lost to Golden State in 5.
Yeah,
And they got okay now. I'm going with 88. I am. I'm going with the 88 because this is during a time where the Lakers, during the 80s, who we got? We got the Lakers, we got Boston,
Detroit.
Philly, and Detroit. Yeah, yeah. So this is one of those teams that is running the 80s. So to take them to 7, yeah, I'm gonna have to go with the Mavs.
I'm gonna go with the 22 Mavs. I think 34 more years of knowledge on how to play the game. I think they'll be shooting threes. They'll be shooting twos. We're seeing really how good Jalen Brunson is, and they were kind of locking him up in Dallas because Luca had the ball so much. I think they by far have the best player with Luca, and
Yeah,
it's not.
Luka's the
It's
best.
yeah, it's not even close. And it's on me for the tiebreaker right now, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. So
and
we're
I
gonna
can't
go.
even argue with I can't even argue because I mean Luka's Luka. So you feel me? But
No,
yeah,
no.
this is definitely on you. So I went 88, you went 22, and that makes sense.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and move the deuce on. The next matchup we got, we're gonna go with the '03 Mavs. They won 60 games. They beat Portland in 7, and they won the first 3 games against Portland. They lost the last 3, and then they won in game 7. They beat Sacramento in 7 against a injured Chris Webber. He missed out on that series, and then they lost in 6 to the Spurs, but Dirk was injured, so it's really kind of hard now to gauge this team based off their playoff performances with beating teams that were injured and then losing to teams while injured. They were first in offense, they were ninth in defense, and they were first overall in net rating. Uh, their key guys were Dirk, Finley, Nash, Van Exel, and Rafa Friends. And the next team they're going to go up
Yeah.
against is actually the title team Mavs, um, who they went 58-24. They beat Portland in 6. They swept the Lakers. They beat OKC in 5, and they beat Miami in 6. They were ranked 8 across the board in all ratings. Some of their key guys were Dirk, Kidd, Marion, Terry, Chandler, Barea, Peja, Deshaun Stevenson, and Brendan Hayward. Who do you got?
I'm going with the champ Mavs.
Tell us why.
Well, aside from the fact that they were champ, I feel as though with Dirk, now I get the 03 Mavs with the 60 games, that like that's a incredible record, but at the same time, that Mavericks team that won the title, they're going up against Hall of Famers like LeBron and Wade. And the way that they all came together, that's really what it was. Watching them on that playoff run, or not even that playoff run, watching them on that finals run all come together is what made me lean more towards them, because they seemed like they couldn't be stopped.
No, I mean, it seemed like obviously, especially with what was it, the first round, they seemed to struggle a little bit with Portland, and then once they took out LA, other than that, what the first 3 games in the championship series, I mean, they were just rolling. So yeah, I got to go with the 11 Mavs as well. I think they are just, I think they're deeper. I think you have a better Dirk at that point in time. However, though, I do like the Mavs at the top with Nash and Finley
Yeah,
over
love it.
a
Got to.
right over a Dirk, old Jason Kidd, and old Sean Marion trio. I mean, I don't know if you want to consider Jason Terry the third best or whatever, but
Yo, Terry, I was about to bring him up actually. Like Mr. Headband was out there killing it, as far as pop and shoot. Like I remember Jason Terry, Jamal Crawford, players like that. I felt like it was unfair that they were going for, and even Lou Williams. I feel as though these are not 6 men who are going for, trying to win 6 men, because I felt like these should be starters. So I said it to say, yeah, Jason Terry, he was lighting them up. He was coming through. They even had who, Barea at that time too, lighting them up.
yeah.
I
Well,
like
I
that. I
mean,
like that spot. That they were deep. They were.
well, I
That's really what I'm
well,
getting to. They were deep.
Well, I think Barea's contributions are extremely overrated. He only averaged like 8 points a game, but it was like a spectacular eight how he was doing it,
It
and
was.
you expected nothing out of him. So I think his contributions are vastly overrated. But yeah, so they're moving on. Our next matchup is going to be so we both got the 11 Mavs. So our next matchup is going to be the '05 Mavs. They went 58-24. They beat Houston in 7 in that classic series where McGrady dunked on Sean Bradley and Kevin Harlan. He just sucked the gravity right out of the building. That classic call that was from that series. They lost to the Suns in 6, and when they lost I believe it was game 6. It was definitely on there. I'm pretty sure it was game 6. One of the funniest exchanges I've ever saw. Steve Nash is coming down the court with the ball. He pulls up to the left side on, I believe it was Jason Terry, but and hits a three to tie the game, send it to overtime. And Dirk is just screaming at him for letting him hit that three, right? Right. No, but it gets better. It gets better. This is where it gets better. So 5 minutes later in overtime, Nash pulls up from the exact same spot with Dirk on him to hit the three to win the game. And Dirk doesn't scream in his own face. So I don't know how you gonna berate somebody for letting that happen when you just turned around and let that happen as well.
I mean, because Nash ain't supposed to be able to pop over Dirk like that. That's probably why Dirk looking at it like, ain't no way. Oh, however, he was sleeping, because I don't know if you recall, but Nash was my boy when he played for Dallas.
Yeah, I
So
do.
and Dirk playing with him, he should have known better because he probably experienced that multiple times in practice.
No, I agree. So yeah, they were 58-24. They lost to the Suns in 6 in the second round. They were ranked fourth in offense, ninth in defense, fourth overall in net rating. Some of their main guys were Dirk, Finley, Josh Howard, Jason Terry, Jerry Stackhouse, and Eric Dampier. And we're going to go ahead and put them up against the '07 Mavs that won 67 games, that lost to the Warriors in 6. They had a net rating offensively of second. I'm sorry, an offensive rating of second. Their net rating was second, and their defensive rating overall was fifth. They had Dirk, Howard, Terry Stackhouse, Devin Harris, and Diop. Who would you pick out of that '07 versus that '05 Mavs?
Um, '07. I mean, they were, you said number two in offense and defense.
Yeah, but then they lost in the first round to the seeded Warriors in 6. So that's
And
where a lot of
six.
people knock them. No, no, no. It
Yeah,
did
and I
go
get that.
6, and it
I
could
get
just
that,
be
but
it
it
could
did
just
go.
be a simple thing of a bad matchup. They could have been better than the other 28 teams, and that could have been the only bad team. We don't know, but that's why a lot of people don't have them ranked very high. So you're gonna go with '07 over '05?
Yeah.
I think that's a pick'em series. So I'll just lean towards your vote because ultimately that's not even who I have in the mind of my greatest team. So we're going to go ahead and just lean towards that. We went ahead and we gave the '06 Mavs a bye. So now we're into the final four. Let's go with this. Let's go with the '06 Mavs. They went 16-22. They beat Memphis in a sweep. They beat the Spurs in 7. And if you remember correctly, that was that weird game where Ginobili hacked the shit out of Dirk going to the basket. The ball like kind of went in off like a attempted dunk layup type deal. It was an and one, sent it to overtime. They ended up beating the Spurs in 7. They then beat a Suns team that was missing 3/5 of their starting lineup but had been surprising people. They beat them in 6. Then they were up 2-0 on the Heat. And then before Wade went crazy, lost to them in 6. They were first in offense, 11th in defense, third overall net rating. Their key guys were Dirk, Terry, Howard, Stackhouse, Harris, and Dampier. Against the 22 Mavs, once again, they were 52-30. They went 15th in offense, 6th in defense, and 7th overall net rating. Luca, Jalen Brunson, Dinwiddie, Finney Smith, Bullock, Keebler. Who you got?
Okay. So for this one, I am going to go with the dang. I got
Just to
ready to
let you know
say
where
the
I'm at, just to let where you know where I'm at, I'm with the '06 Mavs. Um, there's a very good chance they got screwed over by the refs in that finals. Um, it's not guaranteed, but yeah, I definitely would go with the '06 Mavs. They were ranked just overall better in offense and net rating. They had them in defense, but I think Dirk '06 Dirk is on the level with Luca.
yeah.
I think you got guys like Jason Terry. I like him. I like Jason Terry and
The
Josh
oh
Howard, especially
yeah,
Josh
yeah,
Howard at
yeah.
that time.
Yeah, that '06 team, like thinking about it because like you're saying, Dirk and Luca, they're kind of on the same level. So then
Hmm.
it's like, all right, what pieces do they have around them? Dirk's pieces around him I like better than Luca's pieces. With the Dinwiddie and
Finney Smith, Reggie Bullock.
yeah, yeah, I like because even though I don't necessarily see the '06 I mean the '06 Mavs was putting up buckets though. Like so
Yeah,
yeah, I'm going with the '06 Mavs. Yeah, I'm
they
with
were
you on
ranked
that one.
first in offense.
Yeah, because I got ready to say their players aren't really individually other than Dirk. Like they're not putting up the numbers like that individually, but as a team, yeah, they getting it. So yeah, I'm going with the '06 Mavs on that one.
Well, well, I mean, they also had Jerry Stackhouse, a guy who's averaged
Exactly.
29 before. Jason Terry's averaged 20. Josh Howard, I don't know if he ever hit 20.
Wait,
I
Jason
definitely
Terry average 20 win.
in Atlanta.
Oh, okay, okay.
So
I was thinking on that like what? All right, yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So then our next team is the champion Mavs against that '07 Mavs that was 67-15. The '07 Mavs were second in offensive rating, fifth in defensive rating, second in net rating. The '11 Mavs were eight all across the board. 57-25. We got Dirk. We got Howard, Terry Stackhouse, Devin Harris, and then the championship team is Kidd, Marion, Terry, Chandler, Berea, Peja, Stevenson, Hayward. Who you got?
Even though these players are like not many years older, but even though that was an older Mavs team, I'm going with the championship Mavs. I'm going with that collection, that bunch. I love the Peja. I love Peja on the team. I love Kid. Um, you got a lot of the same pieces from both teams. So for me, this is a team that actually won. This is a team that showed that they can actually get it done. And again, it's not like they just beat any old body. They beat the Hall of Famers. So
Well, I
yeah, I'm
mean,
going with
if we're going Hall of Fame, I mean, yeah, they beat. Let's see, we were going to go with Bosch, LeBron, Wade. Then we got Harden, Westbrook, Durant. Then we got Kobe, Gasol, and then we got Aldridge, and Dame. No, no, I'm sorry, that's 11. That was before, so just Aldridge.
it's going through
So,
some yeah, some very great players. So yeah, I'm going with that championship Mavs team on that one.
well, then all we got left are the two finals teams. You got the '06 Mavs or you got the 11 Mavs.
Those things like 11.
I got to go with the 11. I'll just let you know why. I think in '06 their chemistry didn't seem nearly as well. They seemed like when things started challenging them, they were more likely to fall apart as opposed to the 11 Mavs. When something went wrong, they just kept going and going. I also think Rick Carlisle's a better coach than Avery Johnson. So I mean that's
Avery. You like
a little
Rick
different.
over Avery.
That's right.
I agree. I feel as though, I like Rick Carlisle as a coach over Avery as well. And then mentally, it seems like they were more put together mentally at that point in time, which would make sense, after you've been gelling and working, with the same core players for a while, you start putting it together. So I'm with you. I'm going with 11.
So there we go. We got the 11 Mavs as the greatest Mavs team in franchise history. Let's move on to the Rockets. They've been around 57 seasons. They have two titles, and we're going to get right into it. We have the 81 Rockets. They went 40-42, but they beat the Lakers in 2-1 in the first round. Then they beat the Spurs in five. They beat Kansas City uh, in five. I'm sorry, they beat the Spurs in seven. They beat Kansas City in five, and then they lost to Larry Bird and the Celtics in six. They are the only team ever to make the finals with a losing record. They were they were ninth in offense, 16th in defense, 11 overall in net rating. They had guys like Moses Malone, Reed, Paultz, Henderson, Calvin Murphy, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to put them up against the 18 Rockets, who went 65-17. They beat Minnesota in five. They beat Utah in five. They lost to Golden State in seven, where Chris Paul got injured in the last two games with the hamstring. They were first in offense, sixth in defense, first overall in net rating. They had guys like James Harden, Chris Paul, Ariza, PJ Tucker, Eric Gordon, Clint Capella. Who you got? 18 Rockets or the 81 Rockets?
18 Rockets. That 18 Rockets team was a headache. And this is speaking as a Golden State fan. I honestly, I didn't know. I didn't have confidence that we were going to win that series, to be quite honest. For reasons like you got Chris Paul, point guard out there. You got just all of them. To be honest, they were all giving us problems. Harden, what you gonna do with that? You feel me? He's one of the best offensive players ever. And it's not to say Malone wasn't. I mean, it's not to say he wasn't, but at the same time, when you got Chris Paul, who's one of the greatest point guards ever, you got James Harden, who's one of the best scorers ever. You got PJ Tucker with that lockdown defense.
Trevor Ariza, another good defender.
Trevor Reeves, another one, good deep and very
Eric Gordon.
athletic. On top of that, Eric Gordon, he's he's a shooter, and even though Eric Gordon isn't that tall, he's a great defender.
Well, I'll tell you where people really. I always say that people don't give enough credit for on that 18 Rockets team was Clint Capella. I mean, he was what 14 and 11 on like 64% shooting. If you got a guy giving you around 15 points and he's in the mid 60s shooting, that's a very efficient 15 points. You don't need many shots to do that. So that means they're going in.
Yep.
I mean, I'm with you. I'm with you too. You got to be a real special team as far as I'm concerned to be in the 80s, something like that. Just 35 years, almost 40 years removed between teams, and then you have enough
Hmm.
skill and set to
Hmm.
beat that team. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and go the 18 Rockets too. The next one we're going to go with is we're going to go the 86 Rockets. They went 51 and 31. They swept Sacramento. They beat Denver in 6. They beat LA in 5. If you ever see that classic highlight where they throw Ralph Sampson in the ball and he kind of like tips it backwards and he's laying on the floor and they're all hugging.
Yeah.
That's from that series, yes. And then they lost to
Okay.
Boston in 6. They had a net rating, they had an offensive rating of 5th, 14th on defense, 4th overall. Rodney McRae, Robert Reed, Hakeem Olajuwon, Lloyd, Ralph Sampson were their main players against the. We're gonna go with the 15 Rockets. They went 56 and 26. They beat Dallas in 5. They beat the Clippers in 7, where they were down 3-1, and then Josh Smith and them all got hot, and then they lost to Gold with James Harden on the bench actually in Game 6, and then they lost to Golden State in 5. They were ranked 12th in offense, 8th in defense, 7th overall. They had James Harden, Dwight Howard, Terry, Corey Brewer, Jones, Josh Smith, Ariza were their core guys. Who you got, the 15 Rockets or the 86 Rockets?
I got the 15 Rockets based on how deep that team is, and I know. I mean, that's an argument for a lot of these teams I'm picking, but at the same time, these things matter because when you got a key player that, for whatever reason, goes down or gets hurt or isn't coming with it, you need them people that can step up. And this 2015 Rockets team had a bunch of pieces. Let's say, Paul Lord Harden gets hurt. Still got other people that can actually come together and
Well,
pull
Chris
out.
Paul's in
Not
on the 15 Rockets.
who's wait, who's on the 15 ones?
So
Harden.
Jason Terry is, Corey Brewer, Josh Smith, Trevor Ariza, Dwight
Yeah, these
Howard.
guys are athletic. Yeah, these are still some young athletic guys, and to the point of the '80s, I feel as though they wouldn't be able to compete with that.
So I actually would go with the 86 Rockets. I think Hakeem would crack Dwight Howard uh, mentally, because he's just not going to quit coming. He's every bit a defender Dwight Howard is with way
Uh-huh.
better offense. Same thing with Ralph Sampson. And then we saw in that playoffs where James Harden quit on the team. So that's why I would go with the 86 Rockets.
Mm.
But
Mhm.
you got the break. It's your turn for the break and vote. So the 86 Rockets are out and the 15 Rockets are moving on. The next team we have the 94 Rockets, the NBA champs, the uh, the guys that invented Clutch City. If you Google that on a map, it'll take you to the Houston Rockets arena, right? If you Google
No, I did
Clutch
not
City,
know that. That's dope
well, now
though.
now you know. So yeah, if you put that on your Google Maps or something like that, you type in Clutch City, it'll take you to the Houston Rockets. They went 58 and 24. They also set the record at that time for best start to a season with 15 and 0. They beat Portland in 4. They beat the Suns in 7 after dropping the first 2 games at home. They beat the Jazz in 5. They beat the Knicks in 7. They were 15th in offense, second in defense, 6th overall. They had guys like Hakeem, Vernon Maxwell, Otis Thorpe, Robert Ory, Kenny Smith, Sam Cassell, Mario Ellie. We're going to put them up against the '09 Rockets. They went 53 and 29. They beat Portland in 6. They beat LA in 7, or they lost to LA in 7. But when they lost to LA in 7, there was no McGrady and no Yao Ming, and they still took the champs to 7. That they were 14th in offense, 4th in defense, 6th overall in net rating. They had guys like Tracy McGrady, Yao Ming, Ron Artest, Aaron Brooks, Louis Scola, Kyle Lowry, and Landry. So who you got? You got the champion Rockets, or you got the '09 Rockets?
Got the champion Rockets. The King. I don't feel as though Yao's messing with the King. Even though T Mac is getting with the majority, or actually better than the rest of them Rockets that King was playing with, I still feel as though with people with the likes of Mad Max, Sam Cassell, and Robert Ory getting hot. Otis Thorpe out there. I just feel as though that team is the one. I feel as though, I mean, they won for a reason. You feel me? There were
So
a problem for
so
everybody that year.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
So I like the '09 Rockets if they're healthy. I think a trio of Ron Artest, Tracy McGrady, Yao Ming is just a much better trio than Hakeem Olajuwon, Otis Thorpe, and who do you want to say the third best player was? Kenny Smith at that time. We got rookie Sam Cassell and second year Robert Ory. So obviously not what they were. I do like that, but I'm going to go with the '94 Rockets as well, just because I believe in Hakeem. I think they have by far the best player. So and those guys really didn't quit when they were down. They were down 3-2 to the Knicks. They won the last two games. They were down, and we even saw it more in the next season. But they were down 0-2 against the Suns. Dropped first two games at home. They came back and won that in seven. So I'll go ahead and go with the '94 Rockets as well. We could definitely pick worse. But like I said, I think that's a real pick'em series. I could see it going either way. But the next one we have this is actually probably my favorite matchup with so far is the '95 Rockets. They went 47 and 35. They beat Utah in five. They beat Phoenix in seven. They beat San Antonio in six. And they swept Orlando. And I'm going to tell anybody that's listening that is the greatest. I think it's the greatest team of all time because not the best, and that's what we're trying to figure out the best, and that's the difference between
Greatest.
greatest and best, but the greatest because every team they beat had at least what 57 wins. They beat every team on the road. They beat, and not only did every team have a Hall of Famer, every team had an MVP player. And a couple of the teams had multiple first team All NBA players. So yeah, they were seventh in. They didn't really gel to the playoffs. They were seventh in offensive rating, 12th in defense, 11 net rating. They had Akeem, Clyde, Ori, Smith, Ellie, and Cassell versus the '97 Rockets. Um, they went 58 and 24. They beat Minnesota in a sweep. They beat Seattle in seven. They lost to Utah in six. They were seventh in offensive rating, 10th in defensive rating, seventh in net rating. Their key players were Hakeem, Clyde, Charles Barkley, Mario Ellie, Kevin Willis, Eddie Johnson, and Matt Maloney. Who you got for the '95 versus '97?
Mm, 95. Um, the reason I got 95, we're talking about another championship team going up against players who were on that championship team, but at the same time, they're towards the end of their careers. Most of the core players, and 2 years in NBA, a lot can happen in 2 years to you physically, mentally, what have you. So it's like, even though some of the players may be the same, I don't know if their bodies, if they were able to produce the same as that 95 Rockets team. And like you're saying, the 95 Rockets team is considered one of the best teams. I don't know about that 97 Rockets team being one of the best.
This is one of those series I could see going other way. I don't like Barkley's defense. If you remember John Stockton that hit the shot to send Utah, it was because of Barkley's bad defense. I don't like their point guard position and Matt Maloney. That's where they were really lacking in that. I do like their veteran guys, but to me, I have to go with the '95 Rockets because of the chemistry, the gelling. They just played so well to each other with each other. Uh, they were better defenders back then, so I would go with that. On a fun side note, Charles Barkley's daughter had a crush on Matt Maloney, and when asked about it, you know what Charles Barkley said? He said I don't understand what she sees in the guy, and I see him naked every day.
Jesus Barkley. We
So yeah, we'll go ahead.
um,
We'll go ahead. We'll go ahead and move on to the '95 Rockets. Okay, so the next one up, if we're playing a best of series, who do you got? You got the '94 Rockets against the '18 Rockets. 58 wins versus 65 wins. 18 Rockets were first in offense, first overall in net rating, sixth in defense. '94 Rockets were 15th in offense, second in defense, sixth overall in net rating. Who you got?
the 18 Rockets.
Why?
that- Well, for one, they're going number one. That 18 Rockets, like I was telling you before, the match, the way that they were playing, the way that they were gelling, it even though that was one of them teams that didn't get to build and they didn't really get to reach the full potential of how well a lot of those players were,
Hmm.
you seen it. You seen the glimpses. You seen the signs while they were playing. You seen how they matched up against other teams and the type of problems that they were creating for those other teams at the time. And
Where do you see the specific benefit of the 18 Rockets over the 94 Rockets? Where do you have the advantage in that matchup?
they got a better point guard. And
Better
not
two
even
guard,
just the huh?
better two guard.
Yeah, I was gonna say that too, but I was gonna say not even just a better point guard. I feel as though the decisions, like so even though Chris Paul is a better point guard as far as a more skilled point guard than the point guards on that
Kenny
90 well
Smith.
94.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Kenny
Chris
Smith.
Paul is he's more skilled than Kenny. No offense, Kenny, but he is. Um that's one of the benefits. But yeah, like you're saying, the shooting guard, I feel as though just aside from the dream, I like the 18 Rockets starting lineup better.
Yeah, I would go with the 18 Rockets too. I think the skill level, I don't think they had enough skill level with the 94 being with the only the one Hall of Famer, and just there's just a massive drop off after that. Obviously, I don't think they stop Akeem. I don't think anybody stops Akeem, but
No, you're not.
especially with
You're not.
especially with that team, they're shooting 63s a game. And they've just never seen nothing like that. So yeah, I would go with that. The next matchup is the 95 Rockets that we just talked about versus the 15 Rockets, the ones with the Harden Howard Rockets. Which one would you have in that one?
I'm going with Harden and Howard on that one. Um, one because of is this MVP Harden? Because I can't remember what year he got MVP.
Yeah, this is MVP
Or
Harden.
this is MVP Harden.
Yeah.
This is still the athletic, the White Howard. And
Towards the end of his, this was his last year. I think this was his last year in Houston. No, he might have played one more, and then, but
okay.
this definitely wasn't. This was post back surgery Howard.
um, those backs. I mean, I'm still going with that Rockets team over the 94
Well, I'm gonna go with the 95 Rockets, and it's on
or
my
95.
vote.
My bad.
Yeah. I'm going with the 95. So it's on my vote. They're gonna move forward, and the reason why is because I don't like Harden and Howard when they're tested in the playoffs. I think they break. That was Kobe's big problem with Dwight. I'm not saying it's true or not. I'm just saying Kobe
No, I
thought,
get
you
it.
know what I mean? Like, they was soft, and I'm not saying he is or isn't. I don't know. I wasn't in the locker room. He certainly wasn't soft when he beat LeBron in the '09 Eastern Conference Finals. So I don't know. Conflicting reports.
I get
Uh,
it. You're going hard. I went skill,
no,
but
no,
nah,
well, not just Hart. I think Hakeem is the best player in that series.
he is. He
And
is.
I watched Hakeem tear up David Robinson, and if he can tear up David Robinson, I don't see any reason why he can't tear up Dwight Howard. And
I'm gonna get.
then they also have a Hall of Fame guard in Clyde Drexler. I don't think he's as good as Harden, but he's athletic enough to keep up with him. He's
Mhm.
bigger than Harden. I think the first couple games he's going to be like, what the fuck is this? What the fuck is a step back? So I think he's going to be confused on that. I think they have bigger guys in the clutch like Mario Ellie, Robert Ory, Sam Cassell, even Kenny Smith. Kenny Smith set the record for most threes in a finals game that year. So yeah, I like the chemistry better. I like how they believed in themselves better. The Rockets, like I said, Harden was sitting on the bench when they came back from the Clippers. He was ready to fold, and then they really folded against Golden State. I don't feel like they really showed up or competed at all in that series. So I'm going to go ahead and go the 95 Rockets. And now we have the 95 Rockets against the 2018 Rockets. That 60, that Chris Paul, James Harden versus that Hakeem and Clyde. One's got a title, one's got 65 wins, one's arguably, could have been the champion if it wasn't for a Chris Paul hamstring. Who you got out of those two?
It hurts me to say this because I want to say the 95 Rockets. I really do. I'm going with the 2018 Rockets. I feel as though Well, I mean, it's almost like a toss up, but I like the new age talent a little better, even though defensively that 95 Rockets team I like better, but offensively I like the 2018 Rockets team better.
Well, I mean the 2018 Rockets team was one in offense and sixth in defense. They had guys like Tucker who can play D, Ariza who can play D, Chris Paul who can play D, and Clint Capella who can play D. So I can't argue it on it. Like I said, I think Hakeem does have a special place in my heart because, in my opinion, as far as the eye test goes, he's the best I've ever seen play, and that includes over Jordan. This is for one season. I'm not talking about through the course of a career. I
Hmm.
think Hakeem's best season is better than Jordan's best season, and then I think Jordan's next like 8 seasons are better than Hakeem's next season, and things
Hmm.
like that, or somewhere in there.
Right, right.
Um,
I get you. Yeah.
right. So yeah, I couldn't see them quitting, and I could see the 18 Rockets folding. Like I said, I think James Harden's
Hmm.
playoff meltdowns are spectacular, but like I said, the vote's on you, and there's no argument either way. They're both great teams.
Hmm.
Um, let's move on to the next one. We're going to go with the Spurs. They have 57 years and 5 titles. I really tried to whittle this down, but I had to come up with 16 teams for the Spurs that have an argument for it.
16?
16. No, we gonna blaze through these because, like I
Yeah,
said,
let's go, let's go.
we are running out of time. Let's do this. So first, we got the 95 Spurs. They went 62-20. They swept Denver, lost to the Lakers in six, and then they beat the Lakers in six, lost to Houston in six. They were fifth in offense, fifth in defense, fourth overall net rating. Key guys: David Robinson, Sean Elliott, Avery Johnson, Dennis Rodman, Vinny Del Negro. Against the let's go with the 17 Spurs. They went 61 games. They beat Memphis in six, beat Houston in six, got swept by Golden State after Kawhi injured his ankle. Remember, they were up by 20. They were ninth in offense, first in defense, second overall. Key guys like, oh, and just to move this quicker, a lot of these teams it's going to be Duncan, Parker, Ginobili. I'm just going to go with their supporting cast since we know Duncan, Parker, Ginobili's there to move this by faster. We got
Yeah,
Kawhi Leonard, LaMarcus Aldridge, Danny Green, Patty Mills, Pau Gasol, and David Lee. Who you got? 17 Spurs, 95 Spurs.
17 Spurs. There's too
Real
much
quick,
firepower. It's too much going on.
I'll go with the same. You had one Hall of Fame like talent in David Robinson. Well, I mean, I guess you have Dennis Rodman, but he had serious deficiencies on the offensive end. He was a one-way player,
Yeah, exactly.
and
He's a rebounder. He's a Hall of Famer, but he's a rebounder where we got
yeah,
Ginobili, Parker, Duncan.
no Duncan on the 17 team. It was his first year retired.
Oh snap.
So we do have Kawhi. We do have LaMarcus Aldridge. We do have Pau
Kawhi, yeah,
Gasol. We do have
yeah.
Manu Ginobili. We do have Tony Parker. We do have Danny Green. We do have Patty Mills, and we do have David Lee.
See, that's too much. It's way too much going on. Every last one of them is hooping. And the beautiful thing about the Spurs is they don't need nobody to score 30. The
Right,
Spurs, oh, here, you give me 15, you give me 15, you give me 15. And that's what those boys are doing. I mean,
right.
they probably want 15, but you feel me? Like they
No,
they
I
they
feel you.
giving you like
Balanced,
what?
balanced.
Yeah.
Right. So we go with the open man, the hot man, and the stats don't matter.
Because Danny
Next one.
Green was looking crazy. All right, my
Dan
bad. Go ahead.
No, no, no. Danny Green actually in what was it, 13? He set the record for most threes in a finals. So at that point. So next we got the 99 Spurs. They went 37-13 in the lockout shortened season.
Mm.
They started off 6-8. They finished 31-5. At 37-13, that would be on pace to win about 61 games. But at the pace they were on, where they went 31-5 over the last one, they were on pace to win about 65 games. They beat Minnesota in four, 3-1. They swept the Lakers, Kobe and Shaq in four. They swept that deep Portland team. That's when Portland started running like 10, 12 deep, with guys like Steve Smith and Isaiah Ryder and things like that. Actually, I think Steve Smith was traded the next year, but they had Jim Jackson, Isaiah Ryder. Then they beat the Knicks in five. They were 11th in offense, first in defense, first overall net rating. They went 15-2 in the playoffs, had a legendary run in that regard. They had Tim Duncan, Avery Johnson, David Robinson, Sean Elliott, Mario Ellie, and we're going to go ahead and put them up against the 16 Spurs that were 67-15. They swept Memphis. They lost to Oklahoma City in six. They were fourth in offense, first in defense, first overall. They had the classic trio that we all know from the Spurs. They also had Kawhi, Aldridge, Green, Boris Diaw, David West, Patty Mills, and Kyle Anderson. Who you got?
Mm, mm, mm. So I like the addition of Wes. Patty Mills, love Patty Mills because he can give you whatever you need. If you need him to get hot and take over, he can, which is crazy.
I tell
um,
everybody this. I tell everybody this. For 10 games a year, Patty Mills is just as good as Steph Curry. The problem is
Patty
that
Mills,
the problem is the other 70,
right, right, right,
and you
right.
don't know when those 10 are going to hit.
Yeah. But then the 99, I feel as though the 99 Rockets kind of, I
Spurs.
mean, Rockets, 99 Spurs kind of started that legacy run that they won, their legendary run they went on. But yeah, yeah, I'm gonna go with the young ones. I'm gonna go with
16 Spurs. Yeah, I'm gonna
I'm
go
gonna
with the
go with
16. I'm gonna go with the 16 Spurs. I don't think that. I think part of the thing that really helped out the 99 Spurs was the defense you could play back then. They were winning games 73 to 67, and I just couldn't see you beating the 16 Spurs.
73 to 67.
Games like that, 82 to 78. They were very low scoring. Well, that game five finals, would they win 78 to 77? I believe was the final score. So, yeah, I don't think they're holding the 16 Spurs to 77 points, and I don't think they're winning with 78 points. So, yeah, I got to go with the 16 Spurs as well. Let's go into the next one. You got the 0-1 Spurs. They went 58 and 24. They beat Minnesota in 4. They beat the Mavs in 5. Then they got swept by the Lakers. They were 6th in offense, 1st in defense, 1st overall net rating. They had Duncan Robinson, Antonio Daniels, uh, Derek Anderson, Danny Ferry, Terry Porter. And we're going to go up against them against the 15 Spurs. They went 58 and 24. They lost to the Clippers in 7 off that crazy Chris Paul shot at the buzzer to send them home. Like I said, they had the classic trio, and then they had Kawhi, Green, Diaw, Splitter, Bellinelli, and Mills. Who do you got there?
15 Spurs. I'm going with the 15 Spurs. They still had a lot of the core players that had been giving them success for that run, that period of what, like 10 straight years? Yes, I'm going with the 15 Spurs on that one.
Okay, so we got your first real good one just for you. So we got the 0-3 Spurs up next, and I concur with that too. Well, I'm going to go with the 15 Spurs. Like I said, I think they had all the core guys. The 0-1, they had no Parker, no Ginobili. They had guys like Terry Porter, who was at the end. They were using guys like
Mhm.
Danny Ferry. And I've never been a big. If you're using Danny Ferry in your roster, in your rotation, I just don't think you're a very good, or you're missing a key piece. We'll use that. Um,
Mhm.
yeah. So anyway, so next up we got the 0-3 Spurs. They went 60 and 22. They beat Phoenix in 6. Um, after one of the wildest game ones I ever saw, where rookie Amari Stoudemire, who didn't shoot threes, shot a straight on three to bank it in at the buzzer to send it to overtime. Threw up his arm like this, like he knew it was going in the whole time. And then Marbury hit a banked in three at the buzzer in overtime to win. But yeah, they beat them in 6. Then they beat the Lakers in 6. They beat Dallas in 6, and they beat the Nets in 6. They beat everybody in 6. That was their thing that year. They were 7th in offense, 3rd in defense, 3rd in net rating. They had the classic 3-0, Ginobili's rookie year, Parker second. They also had Steven Jackson, Bruce Bowen, David Robinson in his last year, Malik Rose against another title team of theirs, the 14 Spurs, who went 62 and 20. They beat Dallas in 7. They beat Portland in 5. They beat Oklahoma City in 6. They beat the Heat in 5. They were 7th in offense, 3rd in defense, number 1 overall in net rating. Classic trio plus Kawhi, Diaw, Green, Splitter, Bellinelli, and Mills. Who you got?
You did say the 14.
Yeah, the 14 Spurs. The ones
So
that ended
championship first.
championship Spurs, and the 0-3 Spurs that were the champion Spurs.
And the champs versus the champ. I'm going with the 14 Spurs. First of all, the 14 Spurs is arguably one of the best teams ever in history, in my opinion. What was that? That season was a 16, 67 and like
No,
15 season,
no, 62 and 20.
62 and 20. Oh yeah, okay. So 62 and 20 is still good though. So
Still very good.
62 and 20 on the season. Win the title. The same pieces that have been holding you down the whole time. Yeah, I like that. I like that 14 team a little better.
I would go with the 14 team too. The only advantage I really see the the '03 team having is that's arguably the best Duncan that we had. So Duncan would be better than Duncan. But the other pieces, obviously Parker's better than Parker, then Ginobili's better than Ginobili. Plus they
All of
have
them
like
got better.
right. Plus, it's like Steven Jackson versus Kawhi. I would take Kawhi over that. And then you got Bruce Bowen, who, doesn't really give you anything offensively, doesn't really give you as far as like steals production. He's just great at staying between his man and the basket. You got like Malik Rose and a bad back injured David Robinson. So yeah, I would have to go with the 14 Spurs too. So let's keep it moving. The next one's up is the '04 Spurs. They swept Memphis. They lost to the Lakers in six. That was the point 0.4 second Derek Fisher shot clock. And to be honest with you, if he doesn't make that shot, there's a very good argument that they win the title that year. They were 16th in offense, first in defense, first overall net rating. Classic trio plus Bruce Bowen, Hedo Turkoglu, Nesterovic, and Robert Ory against the 13 Spurs. They went 58-24. They beat the Lakers in sweep. They beat the Warriors in six when everybody started noticing the Warriors were coming on. They swept Memphis that year, and then they lost in seven to Miami off game six, a Bosch rebound, Ray Allen three to send it to overtime, and then they had their classic trio plus Kawhi, Green, Splitter, and Gary Neal. Who you got? The '04 Spurs or the 13 Spurs?
13. I like the 13 Spurs. I remember when the 13 Spurs lost, and or I vaguely remember it. And that series, I mean, that was one of them series where Danny Green is going crazy. And I believe that was one of the series. I think that was the series too where Duncan blew that layup. And then that's when they came
Yeah,
back the next season with the pretty much the same team and
right.
showed, Miami like this is what was supposed to happen last year. So
Mhm.
yeah, I like that team because it's almost it's like the pre-team to the championship team that came.
What I personally really remember from that series is I was incarcerated at the time, sitting in the hole, so I literally saw absolutely none of that live. I had to read
Mm,
about it and then rewatch it and all that. So um, looking at the paper, it was crazy. It was just blowout, 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 and then game six and seven were kind of tight and all that. But yeah, I would go with the two. I think they're a much deeper team in all that.
mhm,
I think by then Pop is a better coach as well. I just think the knowledge there, why they
mhm.
do lose, why there's an argument. Like I said, I think Duncan obviously is better back then, but I think Parker and Ginobili is about the same, but I just think their supporting cast is so much better. Plus the mental aspect for it.
The
Um,
mental is really, don't couple of years, like we're saying, like a couple of years in basketball is a long time. So when you got the same team coming back, especially with the program that the Spurs had,
mhm.
where it's ain't no superstars, we just all grind, we just all put in that work. So that type of mindset is helping those types of players to get better from
Do you
year
think
to
that?
year.
Do you think that's why going back to Memphis? Do you think that's why they called it Grindhouse because everybody in the house grind?
That's how it's supposed to be. And at that point in time, yeah.
I got you. So yeah, I'll go with the 13 too. Like I said, when they hit that point 0.4 shot, they kind of folded, and maybe you could say the Spurs folded too after the 3-point shot to send in. But I don't know. It looked like, and like I said, I couldn't watch it live, so I wasn't there. But from all indications, that isn't the case. Plus, they came back stronger. The '05 Spurs did too, but not the way the 14 Spurs did. So yeah, I'll
Right.
go ahead with 13. That's the beautiful thing about some of these matchups right here. I don't think there's a wrong answer. I could
Mhm.
see it going either way. A lot of these matchups I could see going either way. So these are all just opinions, and you can take our opinion for what it's worth, and it ain't worth shit. So the next one is we have the '05 Spurs. They went 62 and 20. They No, I'm sorry, they went 58 and 24. They beat Denver in five, they beat Seattle in six, they beat Phoenix in five, and then they beat Detroit in seven. They were eighth in offense, first in defense, first in overall net rating. Classic trio plus Bruce Bowen, Robert Ory, Brent Berry, and Nazi Muhammad. And we're gonna go against the 2012 Spurs. They went 50 and 16. They That's on pace for 62 wins if they played a full 82 game season. Swept Utah, swept the Clippers, lost in six to Oklahoma City. They were first in offense, 10th in defense, second overall in net rating. Classic trio plus Kawhi, Diaw, Steven Jackson, Danny Green, and Gary Neal. Who you got?
Oh five. Um, it's not easy, but so oh five is the conference champ. Shit.
No, '05 was the title team. 12 was the conference champs. Or they went to the
Okay.
conference finals.
Okay. I'm going with the NBA title. I'm going with the oh 05.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and go with them too. I think the 12 team had problems with athleticism. I think Tony Parker managed them. We were much more athletic back then. Plus, I think you had a better Duncan. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and go '05 as well. Next up, we have the '06 Spurs. They went 63 in 19. They beat Sacramento in six. Like I said, they lost to the Mavs in seven on that weird Ginobili foul, Dirk and one. They had the classic trio plus Bruce Bowen, Michael Finley, Fabricio, Oberto, and Robert Ory and Brent Berry. They were fifth in offense, second in defense, first overall against the 11 Spurs. They went 61 and 21. They lost to Memphis in the first round in six. They were second in offense, 11th in defense, fourth overall. Classic trio plus George Hill, Richard Jefferson, Antonio McDyess, Matt Bonner, and Gary Neal. Who you got?
Man, that's nice lineup. Shit. It's almost like a toss up for me, to be honest. I don't know. I don't know. Like I
So,
don't know the
so if you're gonna go with me, I'm gonna go ahead and go with the '06 Spurs. I think if it
one.
wasn't for a foul, I think they would have made it in there. I like the way their guys plays. Like the talent, I think obviously was more on the 2011 with Richard Jefferson, Antonio
Mhm.
McDyess, and he was at the end of his career anyways. But I just don't think they fit as well. I don't think it was as good a fit
Oh,
for
okay.
them.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go ahead and go with '06 on chemistry. You want to co-sign or you want to challenge with the 11 Spurs?
No, I don't have a challenge because it was a toss up for me. Like that one was one of the ones where I guess it just depends on what you're looking for.
Right.
Yeah.
So then the next one up is, and this will be the end of the first round, and we'll have cut the teams in half by then. We have the '07 Spurs. They went 58 and 24. They beat Denver in five. They beat Phoenix in six, and that was a weird series with Phoenix. They beat Phoenix in six because game one Nash had the bloody nose. Game two they got blown out. Game three the ref was betting against the Suns. Game four they won. No, game three they won with the Suns with the ref betting against the Suns. Game four the Suns won. Game five they won off Suns suspensions, and game six they just legitimately won. Utah they swept. Utah they beat in five, and then Cleveland they swept. They were fifth in offense, second in defense, first overall net rating. Classic trio plus Bruce Bowen, Michael Finley, Orberto, Robert Ory, and Brent Berry against literally the next season team, the '08 Spurs. They went 56 and 26. They beat Phoenix in five. They beat New Orleans in seven. They lost to the Lakers in five. They were 15th in offense, third in defense, seventh in net rating. Classic trio plus Bowen, Finley, Alberto, Thomas, Udoka, Berry, and Ori. Who you got?
I mean, the biggest difference is the '07 team was a team that actually won a championship. So they
Right.
came back with a lot of the same players, but couldn't get the same success. So I'm going with the '07.
Um, I concur, and we'll just we'll just leave it as simple as that. So I concur on that. So let's keep moving on. We got the '05 Spurs against the '17 Spurs. The '17 Spurs, remember, they were ninth in offense, first in defense, second overall. '05 was eight in offense, first in defense, first overall. '05 Spurs won the title. '17 Spurs, they got injured in the conference finals. They had Parker, Ginobili, Leonard, Aldridge, Green, Mills, Gasol, and Lee. And the '05 Spurs had the classic trio plus Bowen, Ori, Barry, and Nazim Muhammad. Who you got?
You said a '05 versus the 14?
No, for the '17 Spurs.
Oh, 17.
Yeah.
17. Okay.
Yeah. Kawhi Leonard, LaMarcus Aldridge, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, Pau Gasol is your starting lineup.
I'm going with the '05 Spurs.
Tell me why.
So leadership. I feel as though the '05 Spurs had a better leader in Duncan.
I can't fault you on it, but I think we're on my turn. I'm gonna have to go with the 17 Spurs. I just think they're too deep. I think they're playing more three oriented. I think threes are over twos in that regard. Like I said, they have some of the same players. They have the exact same coach, and not only that, the 17 coach with the knowledge over the '05 team. I got to go with them. Um, Next up, we got '06 Spurs versus the 16 Spurs. 16 Spurs went 67 wins, lost in the second round, fourth in offense, first in defense, first in net rating. Classic trio plus Kawhi, Aldridge, Green, Diaw, West, Mills, and Anderson. '06 Spurs, they were 10th in offense, first in defense, first in net rating. Lost in the second round, won 63 games. Classic trio plus Bowen, Finley, Barry, and Ori. Who you got?
'06 was first in what?
Defense and net rating
Defense,
overall. And net
defense,
rating
and
overall.
net rating.
But so were the '06 Spurs. The only difference is the 16 Spurs were fourth in offense and the '06 Spurs were 10th in offense.
That's the difference maker for me right there.
Just a better
Their
offense.
offensive rating.
To me, the difference is the bench and the depth. So and I think that's kind of what makes them a better offensive team.
Hmm.
So we'll keep it going. '07 Spurs, 58 wins, fifth in offense, second in defense, first in net rating. Versus the 15 Spurs, seventh in offense, second in defense, third overall. 58 wins, both won 58 wins. '07 won the title. 15 Spurs lost in the first round. Each had the classic trio. 15 Spurs had Kawhi, Green, Diaw, Splitter, Bellinelli, and Mills. And the '07 Spurs had Bowen, Finley, Oberto, Ori, and Barry. Who you got?
So this is crazy because the addition of Kawhi, I feel as though makes that team better in my opinion, but you can't be losing in the first round, though.
So who you got? A lot of
Oh
these are pick
seven.
'em. I was going to go with '07 too, and I know these aren't consistent when I'm just looking at them and all that, but there's just certain things that jump out about each team to me, and the fact that one is fifth in offense, the other's seventh, the other's second in defense, the other's second, but then they're first overall and they're third, and they won the title. Just those are the factors in. Although I do like the roster better, I'm not confident
Right.
about my pick. I definitely could see the 15 Spurs beating them. I could even see
Wow,
the
it's
15
weird.
Spurs kicking the shit out of them. So
It's weird, right? It's weird.
right. It's extremely weird. Okay, and then now we have the back-to-back finals teams in 2013 versus 2014. Um, like I said, it is, basically the bigger difference is we got
Mhm.
more Diao playing, we got more Bellinelli playing, we don't got Gary Neal playing, we got Mills instead. So we got the champion Spurs versus the team that lost in seven to the Heat. Who you going with?
The championship Spurs.
I'll go ahead and go with them too. I think they were hungrier. I don't really think there's much difference as far as the way they played. Duncan, I think, was better in 13 than in 14. I think Kawhi was better than 14 and 13. But yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and go with the tiebreaker being the champs. So next we have the '07 Spurs versus the '17 Spurs. Um, the '07 Spurs were fifth in offense, second in defense, first overall. 17 Spurs were ninth in offense, first in defense, second overall. Um, no Duncan on the 17 Spurs, but Parker Ginobili, Leonard, Aldridge, Green, Mills, Gasol, and David Lee. And then we have the '07 Spurs with the classic trio plus Bowen, Finley, Alberto, Ori, and Barry. I would just have to go with the 17 Spurs on this. I don't know how the
I'm with
'07
you.
Spurs would keep up with them offensively.
No, I'm with you offensively because that's what I was thinking as you're because I understand that the '07 Spurs, they did what they did, but at the same time, offensively up against that 17. They got way too much going on.
And then we got the very next matchup is we have the 14 Spurs against the 16 Spurs. So basically, we got the champ Spurs against the Spurs that won the most games at 67 and 15. They had 67. The 16 Spurs had Duncan, Ginobili, Parker, Kawhi Aldridge, Danny Green, Boris Diaw, David West, Patty Mills, and Kyle Anderson. And the 14 Spurs, they had those same three plus Kawhi, Diaw, Green, Splitter, Bellinelli, Mills. Uh, 14. So the 16 Spurs were better in offense, better in defense, and they had the same net rating overall. But like I said, they lost in the second round, and the 14 Spurs are the champs. Who do you got out of those two?
14 Spurs. The reason being is because if this team got better at offense, how do you fall short? And that's not to say that they didn't get better at offense, but I feel as though there was a factor there, whether it be personnel, whether it be they were at the point where mentally they started falling apart. I don't know what led to them not being as successful or winning chip when it got better. I mean, of course, the competition around them had to get better as well, but at the same time, I'm gonna have to go with the champ on that one.
So really what to me what happened was by the end of that run, Duncan was like 8 points a game and he was just not the same. And I think that's really the big difference. I mean, the other Duncan was only like 14, 15 a game, but it was a really controlled 14, 15. If you needed him to get 25, 30, he could. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was just much more controlled. So here we go. We are at the championship round, and we have the 14 Spurs versus the 17 Spurs.
Mm.
Like I said, we have a really deep team with the Spurs with Parker, Ginobili, Leonard, Aldridge, Green, Mills, Gasol, Lee. That Pau Gasol, LaMarcus Aldridge, Kawhi Leonard.
Crazy.
I know Danny Green was starting, but Ginobili, Parker, closing lineup of five. I mean, that's an awesome five. But then you got the championship Spurs who had Duncan, Kawhi, Ginobili, and Parker, and then depending on where they were going, I mean, you had Danny Green, Splitter, Bellinelli, Mills. So who do you got out of those two?
Mm. I'm going with the champs again. But it's not an easy decision. It's just for me, the defining factor for me is Tim. Tim being part of that roster is what edged that year for me. So I'm going with 14.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and concur on that. To be honest with you, on paper, I like the 17 Spurs just way, way better. But like I said, the hunger factor, the Tim Duncan factor, the cohesion in which they played with was just amazing. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and do that. And on that note, we are gonna end our longest show ever. Um, now that I realize what it takes to do this with the Spurs, I am not looking forward to when we get to the Pacific Division with the Lakers or the Atlantic Division with the Celtics.
Uh,
That's gonna be crazy. We might have to break these up in two parts at some point. But
right.
yeah. Anyways, though, so we are the Hoopstorians. We are out. We will see y'all tomorrow. Until then, take care. Happy Valentine's Day. Stay safe. Thank you all so much for putting up with our shit for so long.